Go to Utility, Firmware screen and touch Firmware versions to check the version of firmware currently installed into the iLive. All iLive mix racks and surfaces should always run the same firmware. Updating firmware restores the console parameters to the factory default and current settings are lost. If you want to keep your settings, make sure you first archive them as a user show. These are not overwritten by the update. Update your version of editor software at the same time and make sure all users have the correct version of editor installed on laptops they intend to use with your iLive system. Check out www.allenandheath.com for the latest versions available and download and save the firmware. Be sure to read the release notes. To update firmware using the Surface USB port, extract the firmware folder. You should find a folder called Firmware inside the zip file. Copy this folder to the root directory of your USB key. Use a key with at least 100 MB of free space and without partitions. And make sure any existing firmware folder is deleted or renamed. Plug the key into a Surface USB port and go to Utility, Firmware screen and touch Update Firmware. A green tick and the version number should be displayed indicating that firmware has been found on the key. Check for correct version number. Green ticks indicate units ready to be updated. A red cross indicates a unit that cannot be or is already updated. Touch Perform Updates and confirm OK. It takes just over a minute for the update to install. Do not interrupt this process. Failure to complete the transfer may result in firmware corruption of the iLive, which will then have to be returned to a service centre. When the updated successfully window is displayed, touch OK to restart the system. It can take up to 4 minutes to reboot the system for the first time after a firmware update. When complete, check that green ticks and the correct version number are displayed on the status screen and then recall your settings. To update firmware using a PC running editor software, make sure the PC battery is charged or is running on mains power and all other applications are closed. Ensure a reliable wired network connection. With your laptop connected to iLive, start your current version of editor and connect to Online Mix Rack if you have no Surface, or Online Surface and Mix Rack if you have both. Click on the Edit menu Remote Firmware Update item to open the update window. Click on Find Update File to browse the PC directories. Locate and choose the zip file. Editor processes the file ready for update. Check that the firmware version is correct to perform the update. Do not interrupt this process. When the Update Successfully window is displayed, click OK. Close Editor and install the new version of Editor before reconnecting. Then recall your settings.